Bloodborne has the worst quality of life compared to all the other Souls games, and it isn't even particularly close. It definitely has aged every bit of those 10 years, and it's going to be the main reason as to why it is in desperate need of a remaster, which for me personally, the quality of life is a bigger issue than things like 30 FPS for me, which when it does come to a remaster or a remake, the 60 FPS, the faster loading times, the performance enhancements across the board, it is going to be like a given. So I'm obviously not going to have that on the wish list because that's just going to come with the territory when it does come to a remaster. But the only other things that really do get changed with the remaster will just end up being quality of life improvements. They're not going to really change up much when it does come to the gameplay because that's something that a remake would do. And for today, I'm going to go over the 10 changes that need to be added to a Bloodborne remaster. Now, you might be questioning why I'm even making this video because I can guarantee a lot of people are going to be like, well, Bloodborne remaster is never going to happen. It's been 10 years. They didn't even say anything when it came to like the anniversary. Which, to be fair, if I was in charge of the social media page for PlayStation, I would never mention Bloodborne a single time with how crazy the fan base is, because that poor social media man will just end up getting harassed. And I definitely do feel like a Bloodborne remaster is inevitable, it's just a matter of when. And also, I just want to put it out there in the universe. I just want to let everyone know that I'm doing my part. I'm not sure how many other content creators have their wish list about Bloodborne remaster, but I'm just going to insert myself there as well. If anybody at Sony ends up seeing this video, hopefully they get some inspiration, and also don't be afraid to reach out too. But with that out the way, let's just get started. Now, the single most important quality of life feature that needs to be added to Bloodborne Remaster is just being able to rest at the lamp. Just have it work the exact same way as like bonfires do or graces do, and that you can interact with it, rest, hopefully actually get a pretty cool animation as well, unlike what we have with Elden Ring where it just fades to black. But inherently, this would obviously respawn the enemies, give you all your health back, replenish your items, your healing, and hopefully for the features that the lamp does have, the major one having to be teleporting between the lamps, that's combined with the really fast loading times will just make it a much better experience. It would also be cool if we could level up at the lamp, but I can see why that's not going to be the case because you do have like a dedicated NPC just for that. And also being able to equip your rune slots or like access your storage via the lamp as well would just be a really nice quality of life feature. At least have it be something that we can unlock or purchase to where it also doesn't make those things in the Hunter's Dream be completely useless. Which, speaking of the storage system, there needs to be a way to where you can just like replenish the items just by resting too, because the way that it stands right now is that you have to go to the storage and manually transfer certain types of things over, whether it be like the paper or beast blood pellets. These types of things don't automatically replenish when you go back to the Hunter's Dream. Now, the next most important quality of life feature, in my opinion, would be just having the ability to respec your character. I don't know why it wasn't even a feature in the base game, especially because Dark Souls 2 introduced it and Bloodborne came out afterwards. Yes, they were developed at the exact same time, but like Dark Souls 2 still came out first. And also just have it be infinite respecs as well. I don't know why some of the Souls games feel the need to limit the respecs per playthrough, especially when it does come to like the New Game Plus not even being that different than the regular base game. So whether it be tied behind blood echoes or like certain types of items that we can go farm for, or hopefully potentially, which is probably never going to happen, but I'm just going to mention it anyway, if there actually was to be like a boss rush game mode, the rewards for said boss rush game mode or like boss replaying mode would be like the items that actually help us respec, which is something that should have been an Elden Ring that I've always asked for that we're just never going to get because of Night Rain existing now. But yeah, that can be another thing that we can talk about, at least the ability to refight bosses or having a boss rush mode. It would be cool, but I'm not too hopeful about that one. Now, the next quality of life feature definitely has to be the ability to not go straight into New Game Plus upon killing the final boss. Which, yes, you can just completely bypass this by like force closing the game when the cutscene does appear, and you'll end up still getting the blood echoes, but it won't send you into New Game Plus. But unfortunately, once you do watch the cutscene, it just throws you straight into New Game Plus with like no option to just like stay in the base game. Like there are so many reasons to just stay into regular New Game before going into New Game Plus that it's something that needs to just be added. Now, the next quality of life feature that I would like to be added to the Bloodborne Remaster has to do with finite healing. Now, this is going to be like a bit of a hot take, but it shouldn't be a hot take. And that is that finite healing just should not exist at all. They should just completely remove it and just make it to where we just have 20 blood vials from the get-go. Every single time that we rest at a lamp, it just replenishes them out of thin air, and we can just keep going about the game. Now, people's immediate reaction would be like, that's a bit too broken. It's going to make the game too easy. But think about what it actually really does. The only thing that it actually does is cut out blood vial farming, which farming for blood vials is not a challenging thing to do. It's a time-consuming thing to do. And the thing is, if you're a decent player to the game, you don't even need to do this. And even then, like 90% of the player base just goes straight into the cum dungeon, stacks up in a bunch of blood echoes, just so they can just buy a whole bunch of blood vials. And I can guarantee you, the game doesn't feel much different. It doesn't feel that much easier. It just gets rid of the stupid, tedious farming. Which, especially for a game like Bloodborne that's marketed as like a really fast-paced type of game, you just want to seamlessly flow from area to area, not really get stuck that much. That's probably why there isn't a system to actually upgrade your blood vials or be able to hold like more blood vials, at least like in the same way that the other games work. Like obviously you can do it by getting certain types of runes, but it's not as like important as things like golden seeds or Estus shards like it is in the previous games. So if they decided to not have those things be a feature in the game, then what's the point of having finite healing? Now, one benefit for finite healing could be that you can still pick up some blood vials between the bosses, but the thing is, there already is a system that exists in Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring to where you can get more healing based on the amount of kills that you get. If you just kill like a whole group of enemies, you end up getting like 1 or 2 heals back. But you can literally implement this into Bloodborne and it'll work a lot better because blood vials don't actually drop off every single enemy. It's only specific enemies that drop them. And speaking of which, we can just make the bullets work the exact same way too. Like what's the point of having these finite items we have to farm for in a fast-paced game like Bloodborne where you don't have to farm for weapons, farm for armor sets, those things that is already available to us. Like I don't think there is a single good reason for finite healing to be in Bloodborne at all. And the only reason people defend it is because people are just like elitists or purists and the ones that have like the new players like suffer the same way they did. It's just stupid gatekeeping. But if you are a person that does like to farm for items for whatever reason just to make the playthrough easier, we already have that system in the blood gem system that's tied behind the chalice dungeons, which is going to be the next thing that I talk about. The chalice dungeon system is not the best. Now the thing is, I wouldn't really change it up much, especially if it's just a remaster, because chalice dungeons feel like they're just like cut content just thrown into the game. It's like we had a bunch of ideas that couldn't make it. We're just going to design this random place and just throw them all in there. It's basically just like free bonus added content to the game. So I can't really complain about it. They could probably change up like the balancing and not have it be as like repetitive for some areas. But the thing is, when it does come to the chalice dungeons, it just feels like a pretty scummy business tactic. It's like Sony was like, okay, we need to be able to sell PlayStation Plus for every single one of our games. What do you have? And they're like, okay, we can make the online experience just be PlayStation Plus only. And they're like, yeah, but that's just not going to be enough. And then we ended up getting the chalice dungeons, which has a big part of it be tied behind PlayStation Plus. And the thing is, in the chalice dungeons, this is where you get all of the best blood gems, where you can get some of the best weapons in the game earlier on, where you can actually farm for things like chunks and get more blood rocks. There is so much useful stuff in the chalice dungeons, and having them be tied behind PlayStation Plus is the closest thing that a FromSoft game has really ever had to pay to win. Like, it literally is just that. You pay for PlayStation Plus, you put in a code to get the best blood gems or to get like thousands of blood echoes, or get like endgame weapons earlier on, get a bunch of chunks. Which, speaking of the upgrade materials, the chunks and blood rocks need to be made way more abundant in the base game because there is nowhere near enough. Like only having 2 blood rocks for the base game is just egregious. That means it's like 1 for your weapon and 1 for your firearm. Like there needs to at least be 3 more. And when it does come to the chunks, I don't know why we can't purchase these for blood echoes and only be able to purchase them with insight. And it costs 20 insight, which is just way too high. So those definitely need to be made a lot cheaper. But also when it does come to the blood gems themselves, I just don't like the whole farming mechanics and I hate how randomized they can be. So this is going to be like a bit of a stretch, but like hopefully they end up implementing like a way to where you can like choose which perks that you can get on certain blood gems or maybe like craft a certain amount after doing certain types of activities. Because in a game where you don't really have to farm for things like weapons or armor, it gets kind of annoying to where you have to farm for things like blood gems. Like min-maxing a build shouldn't be tied behind like RNG or tied behind a lots of farming. Like it's a regular RPG game. It's not like an MMO. It's like part of the reason why I just like to have like regular infusion system more. Because not only can it actually give you better build variety, but it's going to be much more streamlined and available for basically every single person. Number 7 quality of life feature I would like to be added would be the button remapping. The original Bloodborne doesn't have it. It would be nice to be able to change up your controls. Major reason being circle jump. This is literally the only thing that I hate more than 30 FPS when it comes to this game. Now I kind of know this differs from like person to person, but like honestly there is no way you can convince me that circle jump was a good idea. Like to have both running, dodging, and jumping, like 3 major functions in an RPG, all be tied to the exact same button. Like how did this make it past Dark Souls 1? I'll never understand. Because the way that it stands right now, if you're sprinting and you dodge, it does a jump. And when you jump, not only do you get no iframes, but you also take counter damage. Like you take bonus damage. And this gets me killed so many times when I play Bloodborne. Because I'm always sprinting in the middle of the fight to get better positioning. Or sometimes if I feel like I'm going to dodge at the wrong moment, I'll just like hold onto the button instead to sprint for a little bit and then dodge. It's basically something I do in every single game. But every single time that I load up Bloodborne, it just gets me killed. Also, just completely turn off motion controls is like one of the stupidest inventions of all time. I don't know why they felt the need to add this to the game, but the amount of times that I just accidentally do a gesture every single time I try to pick up an item and open up a door or just pick up my bloodstain, it's the stupidest thing. And it feels like it's happening way more ever since like the PS5 controllers came out, but I don't even move my controller much and it will still do it. But being that we were kind of on the topic for like online, we're just gonna talk about that's next. The whole like multiplayer experience in Bloodborne is just not good at all. Like, why did they get rid of like the basic summon sign mechanic? It just makes co-op and PvP just be like that much more tedious. So that's a thing that needs to be brought back. Maybe adding things like group passwords as well, like we do have in Elden Ring, would be pretty cool. And maybe, just maybe, they actually add like a PvP arena, because like the way that it stands right now, the only way to PvP is by doing invasions. And invasions can be kind of hard to come by for multiple reasons. One, you can just kill the Bell Maidens and like completely shut off invasions. Two, because of soul memory, which soul memory is a stupid mechanic. It should be purely based on like level and weapon matchmaking, not based on how long you've been playing the game. Which even then, I probably wouldn't even play the PvP, because like the actual mechanics just suck. Because everyone's just running around spamming the guns or spamming heal. And the net coding was just completely shit, and a big portion of it why it sucked. So hopefully they actually do have some types of dedicated servers too. And maybe if they have like a PvP arena, they end up turning off healing altogether. But yeah, the online experience in Bloodborne is like one of the worst. Now, the last major change I want to touch on would be the HUD. I think the HUD needs a little bit of a rework, because although it does look pretty clean and sleek, it doesn't really do much from a quality of life perspective. One thing I would like to see would be like the item switching be similar to what it is like in Elden Ring or Dark Souls 3, so you can actually see what items you have coming up next, and you can like hold on to the button to go back to the first option. Also, there needs to be like a better indicator for when your weapon is actually transformed, more so than this little like yellow dot that's going on here. They could honestly bring back like the 4 rectangle system that they had in the Souls games, so you can actually see like what weapon you have equipped as well, and maybe you could actually put it there. Because there's plenty of times where I don't really recognize sometimes if my weapon is transformed or not, and there'll be times that I try to shoot my gun and I realize that my gun is not even equipped. And also having a way to change up the size of the HUD and having like an auto hide HUD feature would be pretty cool as well. Now, that's basically all the things that I wanted to talk about when it does come to like the major parts of the quality of life, but there are like some small little things here and there that I probably want to get changed that are not that necessary. One, being able to equip weapons even though we don't have the requirements. That would just be pretty cool to like test out movesets and stuff. Also, the enemy health bar UI kind of needs a little bit of a rework too. Like, it does look pretty cool, but in Bloodborne, more so than any other game, it's hard to tell whether an enemy is one-shot or they just have like no health left. Like, it happens way more in this game than any other game. So changing it up a little bit to where it's more distinguishable would be nice. Which, while I'm on that topic, it's pretty like completely unrelated, but I don't know why From Software didn't bring back like the interval health bar and stamina bar like they had in Dark Souls 1. It was such a cool little feature to help like distinguish how much damage you really did to a boss, or how much health you have left, and most importantly, how much stamina something costs. Like, I get it, it doesn't really look as like sleek or as clean, but at least like have it be like an option to where you can like toggle off and on. But just for some other stuff, being able to see how many blood echoes it requires to level up without having to go to the doll, having little pictures next to like the headstones to where you actually teleport to that specific lamp, we kind of get a better idea as to which one it is. Seeing how many blood echoes the cold blood items actually give us. Honestly, another important thing, let us have a separate audio slider directly just for enemy sounds, mainly just the screaming. There is so much screaming in Bloodborne, even in Dark Souls 3, like that PS4 era of like the Souls-based games. It feels like 90% of the enemies have to have this like deathly screech for some reason, and it's just obnoxious because it's incredibly loud. You can't hear anything else, especially the really cool music in the game. Just like give us an option to like turn down the screams, like it's really bad. Honestly, I can go on forever when it comes to talking about like really good quality of life features that could be added to a Souls game, especially based on some of like the recent Souls-like releases and how good their quality of life can be. But if you guys do have any quality of life ideas of your own, just go send it through in the comment section down below and I'll give it a heart. But yeah, I'm just continuing the never-ending fight of finally getting the Bloodborne Remaster. We're never going to shut up about it until we actually get it. So Sony, if you are watching this, at least give us an explanation, like please.